Funding for Colores was provided in part by Frederick Hammersley Foundation. This time on Colores.
It was the most historic kiss that never was.
Nationally recognized slam poet and the new poet laureate of Albuquerque, Jessica Helen Lopez, shares her inspiration and a performance.
Got the breeze to tickle my nose. I want to talk more about the personalized story versus the abstract kind of headline glossy vocabulary. No make-believe wife playing house behind the kitchen.
Installation artist Jonathan Latiano creates works with themes of evolution and extinction.
I like this kind of pairing of art and science, specifically fields of science that deal with large expanses of time.
Through recording the buildings and their artifacts, photographer Paul Bialas wants to bring to life the stories of iconic Wisconsin breweries.
Just walking into that room for the first time and seeing what was there and what could be saved on film and the story it told, to me was an amazing thing.
Austrian artist Heimrad Becker dedicated his life to documenting the remnants of Nazism and the Holocaust.
So Becker was always a poet and a photographer at the same time.
It's all ahead on Colores. Jessica Helen Lopez
I was free.
shares how identity inspires her poetry.
In your opinion, what is the role of the Poet Laureate of Albuquerque?
I'm sure you've said this in so many words before, but I feel that the Poet Laureateship is an ambassador, a gateway to poetry. Also to play around with language, to identify that poetry is everywhere. In the great words of Raúl Salinas, poesía está en la calle, meaning poetry is found in the streets. And it really is. I do a lot of work with youth, and it's not that I have to remind them, but we have to talk about it sometimes, that poetry is coming out of our radio in our car, poetry is coming out in conversation, in our slang, in our colloquial dialects. And by identifying that, I think it becomes less esoteric, less intimidating.
What's important about you holding this position? What does that mean symbolically?
You know, I always wear my identities quite brazenly and with as much pride and or exploration that I can pursue within my writing. As a woman of color, as a Chicana, as a feminist, and I often identify as a radical feminist because sometimes just saying you're a feminist is radical enough in a room. It's dropping the F-bomb literally. That means I can open up this dialogue, this discourse through my poetry. It's also very cathartic for me to write about my identities, maybe the challenges and the struggles that come along with them, and also the successes that come along with being able to advocate for these identities that I wear, but also for others that might read it and say, I identify with that. Kissy Kissy, for the young Chicana feminist at the playground. His mother gifted him the name Robert, meaning bright flame and keeper of fire. We just called him Bubba. Eloquence certainly not the average sixth grader's finest trait. A skinny boy like a live wire, and skin the color of 10 melted caramels atop a warm television set. He owned a head full of ink black curls, kinky and coiled, as tight as the tiny fingers I once saw etched into a Japanese woodblock print, the Great Wave of Kanagawa. He liked me, sure enough, called me his woman, my sixth grade hips, but only a slight jump rope tremor beneath my yellow picture day dress. It was the season for distractions. Trapezoids and hypotenuse angles like knees bent, an upside-down photo booth face from the monkey bars, all toothy smile and desert dry hair. The air tinkled with the silver bells from the paleta truck that circled round and round our playground like an eager shark. Paletas, paletas. Bubba asked me to meet him during second recess behind the kissing tree. He waited with his entourage of kickballers and sixth grade romantics. It was the most historic kiss that never was. The cottonwood was afloat that day, seed like muted firefly or snow or furry white boats that coasted and cut the breeze to tickle my nose. I was perfecting the cherry bomb from the top rung of the jungle gym, twirling round and round the clouds miles above earth, and then leaping like fireball into the air, queen of my own queendom for those last precious 14 minutes and 42 seconds, 41 seconds, 40 seconds of second recess. I was not the kisser of boys, nobody's hipless woman, no make-believe wife playing house behind the kissing tree, kissy, kissy, McKisser face. In front of a squealing, prepubescent congregation, the scent of stale lunch milk rolling in hot waves from my collective breath. Instead, I was song in motion, a leopard print trapeze artist, all glitter and glow, the most marvelous, magnanimous lady gymnast there ever lived. I was Barbette the Enigma, El Nino Farini and the Flying Zadoras, Lily Letzel of the Laramie ladies, wings taped to my back, clad in off-the-rack knockoff, high-top discount Converse. I was the undisputed star, prima donna of the triple somersault. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. I was cherry bomb, spider monkey dash, kick, flip, forward, flop, scratch, mark, dismount. But most gloriously and triumphantly of all, I was free. I was free. I was free.
So how has being a mother impacted your writing and your work? And tell us about maybe the connection between your work and your daughter.
I worry for my daughter. I worry for my daughter in this world, and I write about it. I love and celebrate my daughter, so I write about it. I love and celebrate our relationship, as complex as it is, and so I write about it. And I consistently write about it as it changes, because as my daughter is getting older and going into womanhood, and she's on the cusp of it as an adolescent, I write about it. And I write about that because when I was her age, I wasn't writing in that sense. So a lot of times it's a hybrid. It's almost a confessional / persona poem when I'm exploring motherhood and my relationship with my daughter.
Why poetry?
I found poetry because it was there. Because I walked into a coffee shop and there was an audience and there was a host and there were writers and there were listeners, and I went and read. It was thrilling. It was something I'd never experienced. And then I was challenged also all the time. What else do you want to write about? What else is vital and pertinent? What is going on right now in your city, in your state, in your country, in the world today? What do you want to write about? I was able to exercise my opinions and opine through poetry, and that felt really, really empowering.
What do you feel your responsibility is? What do you need to deliver in that space that's really going to make a difference?
By being a slam poet, oftentimes we write about the headlines, but there's more than meets the eye in those popular headlines.
And what's your emotional connection to that?
The emotional connection is the people involved, the personal stories, the mothers that have lost daughters along, the border. When I'm talking about or writing about, let's say, reproductive rights, I want to talk more about the personalized story behind that versus the abstract kind of headline, glossy vocabulary.
One of the topics you mentioned was a mother who lost her daughter on the border. So if you actually had an audience with that mother, what would you say to her? Like, why will a poem make a difference?
I think a poem is like a prayer, and the more supplication, the better. And yeah, it creates awareness, perhaps even tolerance, but those are just buzzwords. If I were to really be sitting across from a woman who lost her daughter, I would listen first and foremost. And then also say, do I still have your permission to continue sharing this poem with others? Poetry is very powerful in the fact that because you're sharing stories, you can blow the lid off of a lot of things that maybe go unthought or unknown. Poetry is an emotional, visceral, spiritual way of communicating. I would like to think that a poem that I wrote about border issues would be considered that by those who are living it day in and day out.